interest and giving me the opportunity to present some of my recent work. Actually, this work consists of 3 steps. One is, of course, translation of ancient Chinese medical books and texts. The second step is reconstruction, trying to reconstruct what is missing in the available material that we have from textbooks and discussions in literature. And the third step is, of course, as I'm practicing as a physician, trying to put this into some kind of medical practice and having my experience with that, and trying to find out if these things which we find in the old textbooks are still of some value in our daily work today. For the first step, of course, we have to say it's not always that easy to translate Chinese terms, because a literal translation may work if you have a term that has one clear meaning, but you also have words, especially when we talk about acupuncture gate names, which are more poetic and which can have a lot of meanings, and then it's much more difficult to give a good translation, and I wouldn't even call it a translation because you really are forced to some kind of interpretation. Okay, let us see, and then I've chosen one topic which is quite connected to what we have heard, because although these 13 gates are attributed to Sun Si-Miaos, they really should more be connected with the name of Bianxie. And then we are again with the thing we just heard about the excavation of the tombs and one ancient school of medicine. Okay, next. I said there are things missing. I mean, of course, there's the Chinese literature about medicine from many thousand years is astonishing. It's really a lot of material that we have, but we still do not know how much of the material that was available in former times has got lost. So when we look at the bibliography of the Han Dynasty, which has been presented by Ban Gu, the Han Shu Yi Wen Zhi, we see at least 3 schools of acupuncture, of medicine, Chinese medicine mentioned there. And there's only one book that we still know, and that is still preserved, it's the Huangdi Neijing. It seems that there has been a Huangdi Weijing, as well as a Bianxie Neijing and a Bianxie Weijing, and the Baishi Neijing and Baishi Weijing. So we have the Huangdi school, the yellow tiarak. We have Bianxie, which already is the name of a bird in his name, a sparrow. And we have the school of the Bai family, white, is the literal translation of this. And all these books have got lost except for the Huangdi Neijing. And of course, Bianxie is mentioned, and we have some archaeological findings about that, but we don't have any original work from that school. Oh, sorry. And of course, very important is because as for the origins of acupuncture, why did anybody have the idea to stick pins into a body? There are many theories about that, and Joseph Needham has presented one of the explanations in his book, Celestial Dances, and pointing out at the close relationship that might have existed between the practice of acupuncture and shamanism, which is also addressed by this picture, because the Bianxie here is a bird, so he is able to do the magic fly, and his practice is still within the context of certain shamanistic and Taoist practices. Later on, we see that, of course, shamanistic practices are still a part of Chinese medicine, although this is quite denied in, nowadays by people who defend TCM. You don't hear anything about demons or shamanistic practices or things like that. But in the Tang era, we had 4 major directions of medicine, including magical incarnations. Yeah? And in the Yuan dynasty, we have then these 13 parts of medicine, where these practices are divided into incarnations and then amulets and exorcisms. And when we hear about the 13 demon points, it looks a little bit like an exorcist practice. So it's quite interesting that here in this mentioning of this practice by Sun Si-Miaos, we have a real unification of shamanistic practices and acupuncture, which seems to be 2 different directions in medicine all the time. Yeah? Acupuncture being differentiated from magical incarnations. But it could be that there always existed some kind of relationship. So what we find in the writing of Sun Si-Miaos, with his great book about the prescriptions that have a value of 1,000 ducats of gold, is a new naming of the acupuncture points. So acupuncture gates that are already known get a new denomination here. And every gate carries the name of demon. Is the first character, and then other different characters. So there is some kind of difference between the naming of these points when we look at later literature. In the Genji Dachang, for instance, one of these points is changed. We have some books that mention the gate of the Lang channel number 9, the Taiyuan, and later on this is replaced by the point Darling on the Heart Sentinel channel. So there's a little bit of changing of selection of these gates and naming of the gates, but there's quite some general agreement about the selection of these points. Each point has a special kind of treatment. We're not going to discuss that, because what I want to show here is this question, for what kind of indications could we use this practice? What does it do different from usual practice of acupuncture? So, of course, we have to face this one challenge, where what is a demon, and what could it mean for a modern practice of medicine? And there's quite some nice opinion on that, expressed by Xu Dachun, an author of the Qing dynasty, discussing this problem of demon diseases. On the cause of disease by evil demons. When somebody hosts evil influences in his body, they must have been granted access at some place. They have been summoned upon their residence. As long as Jing and Shen are complete and strong in somebody, no exterior evil will dare to attack this person. However, if the forces whose duty it would be to repel this exterior evil should fail, then the invaders get the chance to settle in with this person. As soon as evil demons have taken advantage of a disease, ignorant people will believe that demons are able to harm somebody substantially, while those who have gathered understanding of natural principles will be convinced that such diseases definitely are not related to evil demons. Both are equally taken by mistake. So this is very interesting, because he is pointing at two directions in Chinese medicine, the one that is dealing with the belief in demons and trying to apply shamanistic practices, and then the direction of medicine which you find more pronounced in the Huangdi Neijing, so having the explanation of phenomena in medicine by natural causes, by description of natural causes. And he says, at least, none of these schools is right. Yeah. You have to try to find a third position to that, which he doesn't mention what this third position might be, but we will see what might be the possibility. Sun Si-Miaos himself, in his second book, the Tianjin Yifang, he gives an important hint how maybe to understand the meaning of this denomination, different denomination of the acupuncture gates that he selects as 13 demon points. As for all the openings on the channels, their denomination has not given without purpose. All include a deep significance. So of course it will be important to discuss the significance of these names and then try to understand how they can be used in clinical practice. Because in the old writings, in all the literature on acupuncture, you find some hints at usage for epilepsy, for madness and things like that. And it's not quite explanatory, not really. So, as we have seen, the practice has to address certain emotions, beliefs that are so strong in a person sometimes that he can't build up any distance to that. Yeah? So, like being obsessed by something. Yeah? Have very strong emotions which can't be controlled, and underlying certain perspectives which he can't correct. Yeah? So living in his own world. And of course we know these phenomena in clinical practice when we treat patients. Okay, so let's get into the matter and look at the gates and the denominations and what they might indicate. Of course, everything has to start with the identification of this occupation or obsession or whatever might be. Yeah? And this has to be hit into the center of the problem. Yeah? So you really have to mention this conflict or obsessive thoughts or emotions within a person when you start the disease. And this, of course, means it's not only about sticking some needles in somebody, it's the encounter that you have with somebody, and as a kind of depth psychotherapy, trying to detect this major problem within the soul or the mind or whatever of the person, and mentioning that, really expressing that. This is the first step, and there's a kind of symbolic treatment, which is very, very helpful. We know there's enough evidence about that from many studies, that when you combine the psychotherapy with some kind of symbolic treatment or ritual or things like that, it gets much more effective. So the first step, of course, is addressing the problem, and the second step is doing something that you relate to this problem, and changing the awareness of somebody. And if you ever have used this point, you might know that it really makes a change in your mind. So this is like rooting the devil or demon, and indicating this occupation of the person with certain thoughts and emotions. Okay, then you have to follow this problem. And if you want to follow a problem, you have to mark it. There must be a sign that you recognize this. So this is the second step. within the treatment of the person, also in the psychotherapeutic process. You have to keep the trace, and you have to explain to the patient this pattern of this obsession that he has. So this is giving it a mark, a sign, a demon sign. Second step, and then again, one acupuncture gate that is quite a little bit painful, and gives you some attention to the problem that you have. And then you have the phenomenon that this demon, this conflict, tries to hide away. It tries to get out of your grip. So it may hide behind a wall, a ridge, trying to not be recognized. You have tagged it, you marked it, but this problem tries to escape. And this is the dynamic within a process of a psychotherapeutic encounter. And you find this tendency to hide away also in the original name of the gate, the hidden white. It should become clear, but it hides from this clearness, it hides away from this clearness. And so you have this, you still have to follow the problem, you still have to keep touch with it, search ahead against it, and try to overcome this enemy inside that is still holding on the whole emotionality of the patient and his thinking and things like that. So we try to open his third eye to really look upon his problem without being any kind of obscureness anymore. So the next step, you have to kill this problem, really eliminate it. So hit it into his central organ, Shin, in the center, and overcome this great wall that the problem has around him and where he tries to hide away. So it's like cooking the demon's ghost, really finishing it, and or chest hit. And you do this with a channel that is, of course, related to the heart and the clearness in the heart, the Shen in the mind. The problem is, when you, as Shida-chun depicted already, when you have this demonic obsession, he must get some access to the system, to your inner system. He has a way that he took to come into your mind and your heart and your feelings. And you have to reconstruct that, because it's not only to kill this one demon, you also have to know about your weaknesses. Why did this demon have the chance to be so obsessive? So you have to follow his way. So what's the history of this whole problem? How did it come about, and how can I defend myself against another attack? So you have to trace this way back and trying to stretch this agenda, which is also in the expression of the original naming of this gate, the stretched vessel, something that has a certain extension, to understand this is not only a problem of the moment, it's a problem that has a certain history. Yes, and then you come to the sleeping problems, that still rest on the pillow, which you don't see immediately, where you are so encouraged because you already have identified your major faults and shortcomings and think you overcome that. But then you find many, many things that are still inside, sleeping, and waiting for their chance to attack you again. So you have to be awake. I mean, the pillow is also a word that has to do with sleep and waking and dreams. and understanding more of what's going on inside of our soul, and so on. So we have to deal with these sleeping, resting problems inside of us, and with our sleeping, our dullness, and our unawareness. So this is the next extension of dealing with this problem inside. Okay, then again we see the completeness of this problem. Not only the pillow, the complete bed, with the whole body of this conflict that we have in ourselves is lying down. So we really have to fight the thing out. Really make sure that nothing of the original problem is left inside of us. And we can't rest on our laurels. We can't be proud, oh, we did already so many things. We got clear about problems that we have and have made some advances. That's not enough. We really have to bring the thing to a complete end. And catch these sleeping problems, demons, ghosts, devils, on their beds. Of course, this is like a conspiracy, you might say. A conspiracy inside yourself, which is trying still to hold a kind of power upon you. And this conspiracy, it's happening on the market, the place where people meet and talk to each other, make plans and negotiations, and pay them money for the bad deeds that they want to do. And this now is the next step to receiving pulp, meaning you really have to eat up your soup. Not only the agents, the bad devils that are going on, but also this plan they had. You have to go back to the place where this plan was decided about you. And still going back in history of this trouble that you have. Face the music and see what is the primary problem. Maybe it's something rooted in the family history. Certain habits that you have to demask, that you have to find. And all the entanglement that you have, everything you're affiliated with, your beliefs, your belief system, and so on and so on. So really go down to bone and marrow. This is what is indicated here. And then you see, you don't only have the problems resting on a bed. Some of the things, they're hidden away in caves, in dark places where there's no light, where you can't see in. So some problems that people carry along with them, which are really absolutely in the darkness. Places which are frightful, where you don't want to go. So you're going deeper and deeper into the problem that is rooted behind such psychological conflicts that we have. So elicit from the deepest caves where you hardly try to get to, and reaching far back into all this problem that comes from in your family and so on and so on. Everything that is concealed in darkness and which is also danger to you, because you really have to expose yourself, even with all the weakness that you have, which is a very decisive moment in a psychological encounter, that the patient really is able to confront these problems and has the trust in you as the person that is dealing with these problems, that he can open up. So, you see, there's a really clever concept behind that. And then, if you really dare to go into this darkness, then in the end you come to the demon hall. So where everything is created, where it all starts, like the temple of the bad things. And here you get insight into the rooting of these problems, like looking in the sky and the highest and clearest stars that you can see. So you get enlightenment about yourself. So here you are able really to understand everything that is going on inside of you and really get inspiration about that. Yeah? And having the courage to leave this darkness behind. So it's like kind of transformation by heavenly light. Yeah? Also believing in forces that can assist you, which is very important if you really want to undergo such a process. Yeah? People have to start to believe in something again, yeah? Otherwise they can't get healthy. So now we come to the final steps. Yeah? When you know everything, yeah? How it was planned, what kind of armory they used against you, what kind of bad tricks you are used to play on yourself, yeah? Then you have to cut the legs of this movement. Yeah? And when the legs are cut, it can't move anymore. Yeah? It has not the chance to attack you anymore. So really to eliminate all these convictions that you have, all these emotional reactions that you're usually exposed to, and make them never rise again. Assure that this is really finished for you, that you're peaceful, that you're in balance with yourself, that you identified your true self, and then that you can rely on that you have good forces, to really do what you're meant to do, not what some things from the outside force you to do. And then, when this is finished, when this is really a dead thing, you can put a seal on it, which is the last finishing ritual that you have to do. If you really want to assure that certain things will never come up again, you seal them up. So then the complete process of healing is finished, and this is the name of this acupuncture gate in another context, the sea and spring. So from the beginning of the flow of water to the ending of the flow of water, everything flows, panta, rain. Everything connected again, from beginning to end. So of course you see from the names, this has a very strong symbolic meaning, and you have to understand that the acupuncture treatment has to be combined with psychological encounter, with addressing these problems, really trying to touch the person and working on these inner forces, which are called demons in ancient Chinese medicine. Okay, that was the short journey.